It has now been 10 days and a few hours since I last updated you on what was going on. Even though only 1 week will have expired from this video to the previous, it was 10 days in the real world and then some hours. Okay, so here's what happened. I did my update last time. And when I was done with that, I basically goofed off in the hotel until about 11 a.m. and then I checked out. Even though the room was supposed to be held until the following day, I went ahead and told him I was checking out early and had mentioned it to the manager. And he said, just tell them when you're checking out. And so I told him, and we'll see if they actually, pulled it back from the company and called it a Wednesday checkout or not. Not that I will ever find out really, because I don't think the company will really care. It's a line item for them. They'll just write it off regardless. But, basically, on my way into the hotel at 8-something, like 8:15, whatever it was, I grabbed some of the continental breakfast. I called a little while later and asked what time does the breakfast close, and they told me 9. So right before I went down there and raided the rest of their bacon because they updated it, or they brought out brand new bacon when I was there. So I raided like a whole bunch of it. It's so good. Anyway, I goofed off in the hotel room and then I checked out at 11. Went by JB Hunt and they have this thing called a safety day, which is where there's different things going on, different activities going on. And so basically it was on the very, very back lot. They had a Mexican food truck there, which smelled really good. And they had 4 different stations. In order to get free Mexican food, if you're a driver, the office people got to have it regardless because they didn't have to do the driver training stuff. They had 4 different workstations. Number 1 was a pre-trip challenge where they basically gave you 8 minutes to do a pre-trip and find as many errors as they possibly could in the pre-trip. That you do not have to start up the tractor. They basically just set up a chassis and a container on top of it. And then there was the tractor and they said, just turn on the lights if you want, but you don't need to crank it up and run through any of that stuff. Just see what you can find out on the inside of the cab. And it was a day cab. I've never really, aside from like the very beginning of when I started with 160 trucking school and my first day there in the yard, I was thrown into a day cab to do two alley docks and couldn't get it at all. But anyway, that was the first time since, and not one that was really run by a company. So I was, first of all, not told things like it was going to be 8 minutes to find as many as I could. I was also not told it was 10 items that were potentially there for you to potentially see and find. So I said, okay, well, let's start. And then I opened up the door of the day cab and I had the person with their clipboard there. And I said, okay. And I got in the driver's seat and I put my hand on the key and she's like, no, you don't need to start up. I'm like, well, how can I properly pre-trip if I can't, do all the in-cab stuff? And she says, don't worry about that. Just do the stuff you can do without cranking it up. I'm like, okay. So I was like, so obviously, I have a pre-trip that's embedded in my mind from 160. So what I will do is go through that list. And if you throw off that list, if you throw it off in any way, then it messes things up. So I'm starting to say, okay, well, without turning it on, I can't check the air. I can barely check the seal. It's more the inside of the day cab is, basically the same temperature as outdoors. So I can't check to see if the defrost is working, any of that kind of stuff. I can't really, tell lights really more than what you can tell on the inside. So anyway, I started asking some questions. I'm like, well, how can I do this? And how can I do that? And she's like, just do what you can. And then she's like, 6 minutes left. I'm like, 6 minutes left? She didn't tell me, there was a time frame initially. So I wasted my first 2 minutes saying, wait a minute, let me ask you some questions, trying to find out the rules. And so finally I'm like, okay, I guess if only 6 minutes left and I haven't done anything yet, first thing I do is I grab for the permit book, which is normally something I use when you do your pump down test. You are trying to build up your pressure again. That's usually what I would do then, is I would look through the permit book and make sure all the permits and the registration and the insurance, all that kind of stuff is valid. But so I just go through that and every single permit in the thing is expired. So I said, so every permit I'm looking at here is expired. So one of them was back to 2009. That's maybe wonder where they got that book from. Must be one they put together for this kind of thing. And then I was like, so that means the registration is probably expired, and the insurance, which I couldn't find. I said I'm not even seeing the insurance card in here, and the registration is expired too. And she says, okay. And I see her check off 2 things. And I'm like, okay. And I get out and I look around. And I'm like, I look for the side compartment. I'm like, I don't see a side compartment. Obviously, it's a day cab. So I'm like, well, I don't know where in the world, the three things, the fuses, sorry, the fuses, the fire extinguisher, and the triangles. Those are the 3 other things you check that would normally be in the in cab. And I said, well, I'm not going to go hunting for the fuses with only like 5 minutes left. So let's hope that the fuses are all there. And then I said, aside from that, I don't even see triangles. So I kind of glanced around and I'm like, I don't even know where those would be. So I guess I'll just go on and actually, with like my 4 minutes and change left, I'll go ahead and look at the chassis. So I went to the back and I looked at things, and I went through the list of things, and they said, here's a tire pressure gauge. I'm like, great, 18 tires to check. I might as well just fly through it. So I checked like 8 of them, and they were all on the low side. They were all at like 86 PSI. And I said, well, these are all low. They're supposed to be at 100 PSI. Except the steers have to be 110, I said, or to factory specifications, which I can't look up right now with only a couple minutes. So I said, all of these seem low to me. There was one that was like 70 some odd PSI. And I said, all right, well, this one's low. So chances are, there's a few different low ones, but I'm not going to check them all because I had to go through the chassis. The only thing that I would say, about that is I went through it, and one of the things that almost caught me until I stopped and went back and looked at it was a piece of a hazmat sticker about a quarter in size. And as I was going through the back and I was calling out different things I saw, I was like, wait a minute. And I went back and looked at it. I'm like, that's a red piece of something that looks like a sticker that was it's not in the diamond, but it was up there on the back of the trailer. And I said, that doesn't look like it should be there. So I said, that's probably a hazmat sticker that they probably threw on there. So I said, a piece of a hazmat sticker. And she nodded and went on. I got all the way around. I caught officially 7 out of the 10 things. And I said, what did I miss? And she told me that there was only 2, not 3 triangles. And I'm like, I didn't even see the triangle. She says, it's in a day cab, it's behind the seat. And I'm like, well, I didn't know that. I caught like all the locks, and all the different pins and all that kind of stuff. I caught all that. I caught everything on the chassis. The one thing I think I legitly missed was there is on the underside of the chassis, there's a registration little thing that you pull down, and there's supposed to be registration in there. It was very, very dusty on the outside, and I glanced at it, but didn't think to open it. Something I've never had to do. So that is legitimately something that now that I know, I'm not going to make that mistake again. So I'm glad that they had this as part of the safety day, because that's something that is the only thing that was part of the pre-trip that they did. I scored a 70%. If I would have known that I had more time and would have thought about it, I could have gotten 90. The one thing I would have forgotten is that registration. And if I was legitimately not rushing through it, I probably would have inspected and looked underneath the chassis and double checked to see if the container had any damage on the underside. But at this point, I was just like flying through it. So I may have actually paused if I was detail oriented and going through the entire chassis, every single foot. But I may have seen that and said, wait a second now. But I can't claim that. What I can claim is that the other things I would have gotten legitly 90%. If I would have known where the triangles were. And then the other thing was that they did not count off on the tire. Because they said that I stopped checking the tires, and the one tire that was flat was on the other side of the tractor, and she never saw me check the tire pressure on that. So she said, I can't count that. I'm like, okay, fair enough. So those are the 2 things I had wrong, and those are the 3 total things that, including the chassis registration, that I would have gotten probably wrong. Anyway, then the second station was talking about the there's some technology updates, and that was a one-on-one where you went around and they said it was talk about different technology updates. Like, for example, the bags, when you have you release the kingpin and it flies out, the kingpin, normally what you do is you start to pull out and then you dump the bags and you make sure you separate. That was the wrong way. It would go like this. So that way it would technically it would be connected up this way. When you pull the pins, it would dump the airbags and then go away. So that's the way it would technically be. I'm totally off on my presentation here. But apparently there is, if the person didn't leave a tad bit of room on the chassis when they dropped it and it's way up too high, apparently there's a new thing. They called it a Halverin slip, switch or pump or something like that, where basically that it's the opposite of the airbags, where it will extend upwards. So if I'm trying to scoop up a chassis, I can go up underneath it and then I can hit this and it will go up a little bit. So whenever I'm issued my truck, I'm going to definitely look and see if it has this new Halverin switch. I forgot what it's called exactly, but I'm going to see if they have it, because it would be awesome if they do. And then there was a safety session where we went through and they said that a lot of the injuries that happen in trucking are for things that are preventable. Like, for example, getting in and out of a trailer incorrectly, or a tractor, which I've been very guilty of getting in and out of it wrong. Like I'll not do 3 points of contact, or I'll put two hands on there and then I'll kind of almost run up the 2 feet. So they're kind of almost jumping. And I know that's wrong. And when I'm stepping down sometimes, as I get on the bottom step, I will lean off with one arm and hold myself with one arm until I hit the ground. That's the wrong way to do it. And so they basically just made sure we know the proper way to do it, which I do. I just didn't. And then, but I showed him that I knew how to do it properly, the proper way to roll up and down the landing gear, things like that. Proper way to get in and out of the trailer at the back, things like that, that are legit safety concerns that could cause someone to get injured. So, I mean, you talked about, making sure that you have proper shoe protection when you're working around a semi, which I do. As a matter of fact, I'll talk a little bit here in a bit about a couple of things that have been going on the past few days. And then anyway, we finished up with the safety briefing, and then there was a backing challenge where it was tighter than the space was on the close quarters training. It was close quarters. I think they moved the space up like 6 feet. This one, they moved it probably closer to 10, 12 feet. And so I looked at it, I'm like, this is really tight, but it was a day cab. And I was like, I have not done day cab since I was in CDL school, my very first day when I didn't know jack. And they were like, and the guy the guy stayed quiet. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll give it a try. I pull out, I line up, and I don't get out and look. I just kind of look at it and line it up, and I say, okay, let's see. And I start to position myself where, I have plenty of nose room, and I start to position myself an angle, and this little day cab is spinning on a dime. I'm starting to turn. I'm like, whoa, this thing is like, it went like, into a full like jackknife real fast. And I'm like, well, geez, I don't need to do any pull forwards. I can just pivot. And then once it looked like it was getting like in the spot, I went ahead and reversed it, straightened up. That is the second time I have done an alley dock as part of a training thing, like the close quarters. And then this is the other one where I have done a perfect alley dock without any pull-ups, without any recorrections or anything. I went straight in. I didn't pull forward at all. I just went straight in and then straightened it up. I'm like, wow. And if this was the line, if these are the lines, I was like not perfectly centered. I was maybe slightly over. So I was about a third of the way over in the space, which is, good. So when I got out, I was like, yeah, that's really cool to see this. I said, I haven't seen this, like haven't been in a day cab. And they were just like, well, it's a interesting, he says, I didn't tell you, anything, but it turns a lot better. I'm like, it does. I mean, I had plenty of room in front of the tractor. So anyway, I got out there, got my 4 punches and my punch cards for going through the 4 stations. I got my Mexican food, and I went back to the car and hit the road, went home. did laundry and that kind of stuff. In the past few days, I know that since I finished training, they're supposed to be sending me 5 shirts that say JB Hunt. And the design I got was the button up with the long sleeves. We're going into winter. And if not, you can roll up sleeves, which is what I normally do. You probably see me with sleeves rolled up in the shirts that I've worn in the past. So that will be interesting when I get those shirts. I don't know how long it takes to arrive. But in the meantime, I did get a printer. I got an M140W HP printer, which is a wireless, not a Bluetooth. However, what I found is there's something called remote desktop, or I forgot what it's called. It's a service you can get on it. Let me see what it was, but it was an HP print service and then HP Smart. Those are the apps you have to get. The HP Smart is the app that you can print to, and then HP, whatever the other one was a service that you can run that basically will connect up to the Wi-Fi of the Wi-Fi router of the printer. And it will allow you to, if you connect to that printer on your Wi-Fi on your phone, you can print directly to it. Now, when I was setting it up, I had to download the file to my phone. And then once I opened it, I had to connect up the Wi-Fi over to the printer. And then I had to find it, because if I was just connected up to the Wi-Fi at the house, it wasn't finding the printer. And if I didn't have the printer connected, then it wasn't seeing it. But I think, and I'm not 100% sure on this, I'm going to have to test it, is when I get into the truck, I'll set this all up. But I'm thinking that the phone should still be able to connect up to 4G. And I turned off 5G because I just don't like it. It's too slow, and it's not got nationwide it doesn't have connectivity nationwide at 5G, and it's slower going back and forth between the two of them, or when there's any kind of a signal that's in the way. So 4G is much more reliable. So I use that, but I'm thinking my phone can connect to 4G, but stay on that Wi-Fi hotspot if it's in the truck. And then maybe I can just pull up the file directly from the JB Hunt app, click print, and then print it out through that. Hopefully that's the case. If not, I'm going to have to, I don't know what. I'm going to have to untick the box for Bluetooth or for Wi-Fi, and then activate it again and hope that it connects up to the printer. So if I have to use that, which anytime I don't find the bill of lading, all the pages and stuff, if they're needed, as soon as I find the pages are not fully and intact, I'm going to print them out just to make sure we have them. And in training, we only needed 1 copy of them, because once I got the copy of it and gave it to the office, I took a picture of it to scan it. So as long as I take a picture of it, I'm good. I'll get the timing exactly down, because honestly, it's been 10 days since I've been in training. And I was only in training for like 2.5 days, 2 days and like 2 hours. So hopefully I haven't forgotten everything in the world I knew about intermodal in the past week and half, but we'll see, I guess. So anyway, I got that printer, and I've already set it up. So, oh crap, I forgot paper. I need to get paper. Can't believe I forgot that. Anyway, though, I'll get some paper, and then I'll be complete on that. I also got updated shoes, or new shoes. It's the same exact ones I had before. They're very comfy. They're the slip and oil resistant ones that with a safety toe, not a steel toe, safety toe. And they were very comfortable on the inside, as long as you don't stand in them for 12 hours a day. If you're driving in them, you can actually do this number with your toes. You can actually pull your toes in there and straighten them back out, which I really appreciated. Some of the shoes I tried on were just uncomfortable, or you tried them on and they were comfy, but you couldn't do that. And I was like, you know what? There's a lot that can be said for when your toes start to cramp up, being able to actually pop them by just, pulling them in and out. Aside from that, I am back here. Technically, I'm going to be going to sleep in about an hour and waking up tonight by about 9:00 p.m. And then I'm going to finalize grabbing all my stuff together, and then I'm going to hit the road. I'm gonna drive out to JB Hunt. I'm going to go into the office, get my paperwork, get my my tractor keys and stuff like that, unless they put it on the dipstick or something like that on the underside of the tractor. But I'll get the tractor issued to me and that kind of thing. Let me tell you about the process on that. Every single day, I finished training on Wednesday and went and talked to the manager. And I think I told you this last time. He basically said, stand by, I'll get you a tractor. But one thing I thought of after I did my last video is I thought about, and so I mentioned it to him. I said, if there is a tractor anywhere in the company or anywhere in the country or region that you want to send me out for, if it's my tractor, I would go get it. And that way I'm doing something, please send me out. And he said, all right, well, if I do get a tractor like that, I'll put you on the top of the list. I said, thank you. So basically I went home and submitted 8 hours worth of work for the day. And it paid that as opposed to any of the fees related to the little bits of work that I did running those 2 loads that day. So it went ahead and paid me. Actually, I can't remember if they paid me the mileage on that, but then they paid the balance of it from those hours. So when I finished there, that was my Thursday. I went and waited for a call. It didn't happen on my Friday, which was Thursday in the real world. And so basically, I put in hours for 8 hours of work waiting on power unit. Then on Sunday, waiting on power unit. Monday, waiting on power unit. Tuesday. By the time I hit my Wednesday and I hit one exact week without having been issued a power unit, I sent a message to the office and said, hey, it's been a week. What's the update? And the manager said that they had just got through getting approval on 10 trucks. He's waiting to get approval on them, but then he would be sending me to get one. Apparently he didn't send me to get it though, because the rest of that day and Thursday, waiting on power units. So I got paid 40 hours this week for not doing jack, except waiting. And to me, it was a huge pay cut from even my lowest week at Martin. Not my lowest week at Schneider, but my lowest week at Martin. So that's annoying. The whole 3 weeks technically in training has taken a huge toll on my wallet, just because I understand that they don't even have to pay for training. God knows Martin gave you a $400 sign-on bonus, but then they don't tell you that they don't pay training. So that sign-on bonus is supposed to be your paid training. So that was really stupid. It was basically 3 days there and I didn't know. And I was like, where's my pay for that? Oh, well, we gave you the sign-on bonus, didn't we? Anyway. But the 3 weeks of low paychecks have hit me hard. Our finances are bad. And wouldn't you know it, we also have car expenses that we have to do as a family. So that's fun. I wasn't actually issued a tractor until almost 3 p.m. on Friday, like legit Friday, my first day off. And I was called and I was away from my phone. My phone's always on silent. And I'm going to have to probably, change that to making noise, even though the company policy is that you're technically not supposed to be on the phone when you're driving. They supposedly allow it now that they have front-facing camera on. I'm still not going to, at least for a while. I may take certain calls at certain times, but I don't want to get into the habit of taking calls while driving. If it's against policy, even if they are being lax about it now because of the front-facing cameras, driver-facing camera, I don't care. I'd prefer not to, and then just call people back if there's an issue. I say that the office may end up calling me and changing things on me, and if that's the case, I may end up having to get into the habit or whatever. But I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, I was called at just before 3:00 on Friday, and the manager left a voicemail. I turned around and called him back. And then I sent an email because I'm like, it said his voicemail had not been set up. I'm like, so I called back a few minutes later, same thing. I called a cell, same thing. Cell phone went to, didn't get him. So, and then it disconnected me. I'm like, okay, whatever. I've sent the message. Hopefully I can get the truck. And then he called me back and said, we have a power unit for you. I'm like, awesome. And so I asked for what the number was. And I said, will it be available for me to get when I start at midnight on Sunday? He says, yes, sir, it will. I'm like, awesome. He says, we just got it in. It's one of the newer trucks. And where I'm just going to go out there and give it a pre-trip and make sure it's ready to go. It just came out of the shop and should be ready for you. So I'm like, awesome. Well, beautiful. So I will get that on tonight. But anyway, so I went and pulled out the bin that has my old over the road trucking supplies, which I did not anticipate needing again. But here we are. So I went ahead and pulled it out. When I opened it up and I looked in it again, I just kind of looked at it and smiled and shook my head and said, here we go again. So I'm going to have 2 bins. I'm going to basically just have my suitcase full of my clothes and stuff like that. I basically have to have food and stuff packed for 5 days as opposed to 3 to 4 weeks, 3 to 4.5 weeks. And so really all I have is almonds, cashews, meat sticks, and Jack Links. Not very much food, but I'll probably compensate by grabbing something at a truck stop at some point. I have points in my Wendy's app to get a free Baconator. So if I happen to find a Wendy's someplace on the route that I'm going to be driving, I'm going to grab one of those things and hopefully fill up. But, I lost 70 pounds when I was over the road with Schneider because I was being very disciplined about my eating. And then with Martin being home daily, I was disciplined usually during the week. But when I started to, I guess in the past couple of months, I started getting a little more lax in eating more what you would consider junk. I mean, I was eating, not streamlined at all. And I was just eating more than I really needed to and just not really taking care. So I put on a little bit of weight while I've been at Martin, but I'm going to be more disciplined as I hit the road again. So, and then I'm going to hopefully have like my very first day home. I might have a snack, a little treat or something like that. And then when I go spend time with my family the following day, I'll probably, eat with them and whatever, not gorge and do crazy stuff more so than, normal. And then I'll end up going back to my place to stay and do whatever I need to. I got to figure out my schedule. Like as of the time of this recording, tonight I'll go in and start my shift at midnight on Sunday. So today is Saturday, but midnight on Sunday I will start officially. And then I was told that once you do your first day, you can start 10 hours later. So I hope to back up my schedule to start by about 10 p.m., maybe 9 p.m., depending on where I am. If I'm over the road or something like that, and I can start at 9 p.m. and I can get wherever it is, and I got to look at the times and see when they need me to do certain drops or pickups, because I really don't want to start at 9 p.m. and have them say, oh yeah, well your pickup's at 7 a.m., because that would totally screw me up. So I'm actually, what I need to do is probably call the office right now and talk to them just to make sure that they know. I mean, I put in the app when my time is, so hopefully they know, and they're not planning on me starting at midnight and not getting to a place 200 miles away until 7 a.m. Hopefully it's not that way. Hopefully they'll send me to some place I can go any time of the day or night. And if it's mainly drop and hooks, then hopefully I can drop and hook any time of the day or night. So I'll call the office and just state the obvious to them, hopefully. One thing that's interesting is that they just got through, like the Wednesday I was there, they said starting tomorrow, which was last Thursday, they're going to start repaving in front of the the Palmetto rail yard. So I don't know what that's going to do to anything, because there's potentially 5 ways that that my trainer told me that they know that you can get in and out of the yard. But it's only one way in on the left, one way in on the right, but there's different sections that could close down. So you could go out and then around, or straight, or out and then way around and then in, and different ways. But it'll be very interesting for me to see exactly how they end up doing this paving. I would love it if they just hit it hard for a week and got it paved. I don't think that in the real world that's going to be the case. It's probably going to be something that's going to be lasting for months, because that's the way DOT has to do it. They have to take for months to do crap. So we'll see if that's the thing. It throws me off tonight. Hopefully it won't. Hopefully I'll be able to just navigate around it, but then I'll probably run into every single train there is. I'll hit a train. I'll run into a train. It will stop me, and then I'll cross over the tracks. And then I'll come in, and when it's time for me to cross back over the tracks on the other side, I'll end up running into another train and having to stop for it. So that's the way it will be. And then it will, as soon as I pick up my load, I will encounter another train before I'm able to leave. So that's the way it's going to be, just to throw me off. It's going to be that way. Probably for this, just to mess with me. Anyway, so that's that. I got to finalize getting all my stuff together to get back on the road, over the road. I'm not going to be issued a refrigerator. I thought about grabbing like one of those little bitty coolers that can take like, 6 cans, soda cans or whatever, make it that big, and then pack something up in that just to at least keep something cool. You would need to have a freezer if you want to do Hot Pockets, and it would mean grabbing my air fryer and bringing it back. But for this first route out, I'm not going to do that. For this first run out, I'm probably going to grab miscellaneous, stuff that I basically just need to function. If I need to buy any food or something like that on the road, I will, which I really don't want to. I don't like spending the money on something that's consumed unless it's a special treat that I almost never ever use. But anyway, so that is that. Yeah, I'll call the office and make sure they know that I'll be driving at night, even though I'm sure they're going to see my driver ready time, DRT. I wanted to say PTO, projected time, or PTA, projected time of arrival, which is what Martin used, but they use driver ready time at JB Hunt. So we'll see what happens there. But aside from that, get back on the road. I can't say that I'm overly looking forward to it. It will be nice not having the daily expense of driving to, taking half an hour of my time to and from, and spending the gas getting to and from, the place where the truck is. It will be nice to be issued a truck again and that I will be responsible for, and I can get to know and learn. By the time I left Schneider, I knew that truck like the back of my hand. I knew every little bit of it. If I spotted something that it was out of place, I was like, wait a minute, you weren't there before. Why is there a smudge there? And that I would pay attention to. So I'm looking forward to getting to know a truck, again, that one that I'm not going to be issued on a potentially daily basis and then be responsible for. Well, that's your truck. We issued it to you. I'm like, yeah, but you just issued it to me 10 minutes ago. Can you give me another one? No, that's your truck. And I'm like, so now I have to deal with that and go to get maintenance done on it because the previous person didn't. Anyway. So supposedly I'm going to be issued a newer truck that is going to be good. So looking forward to it. I'll be going to bed in less than an hour and then waking up and heading on in. Can't go too early because if I get there too early, they're going to, I'm going to aim to get there by 11. So that way, if I go into the office and get anything, checked out to me and stuff like that, that way I can go in, hopefully start my pre-trip at 11:30. Technically starting a little bit before midnight, but I'll if they ask anything, what I'll tell them is it was my first night. I wanted to make sure I was going to be there on time and that I had enough time to fully do a pre-trip because I want to be able to. It's at night. I'm going to be doing this at night, so. And what I'm really hoping is that because I'm going to be starting at midnight on Sunday, I'm hoping that when I finish things on Sunday, it will be at the very latest by like 1 p.m. What I would love nothing more than is to do my pre-trip. Let's say that tonight it's going to take a little bit longer, but if it takes 15, 20 minutes on average, if it takes me 15, 20 minutes or so in the yard, I do plan, unlike in training, I do plan on using yard move. If it is an option, I would really like to. I was told you can only really use yard move at the beginning of your shift because you are moving around the yard then, but then after that, when would you need it? But anytime you're in a yard, you should be able to use it, in my opinion. And unless I am told directly not to, they were said you can't do it on the system does not let you do it. But to me, if I'm in a yard, I should use it. That will save drive time, and that means that I'm using time efficiently. So that's what my goal is. Anytime I can use yard move in a yard, I will. At Martin, I was told you can use it, in other times too, but I'm only planning on using it legitly in the yard at JB Hunt. So, anyway, so that's that. Look forward to seeing how it goes tonight. Now, I may do an update. I don't think I'll do an update my first day. Or my first night tonight, but I'll probably do one, a couple of times during this first cycle, this first week out, just to see what happens. We will see. I mean, these videos are already being released over 4 months after I shot them, so we'll see what happens there. I may end up doing one video this week or two. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, that's it for this time. Thank you for watching.